Hey everyone, I want you to think back to the last time you heard the media report about an air crash. What did they talk about? The black box, right? But what is the black box? In the simplest terms, it's just an important piece of the puzzle when putting together the events that led up to an air crash. But I want to delve a little deeper. I want to talk about some of the misconceptions of black boxes, how they operate, why they're so vital to air crash investigators, give a brief history of how they came about, as well as their reputation for being indestructible. And finally, we'll talk about the future that black boxes hold. The first and most common misconception is their color. They're called a black box, so we assume they're black, right? Well, there's a picture of one. It is called International Orange, and according to NatGeo.com, the reason it's painted that color is to make it easily identifiable in the event of an air crash. Here, there's the debris of a crash on a mountainside, and you can see it sticks out like a sore thumb. The second misconception is that there's only one black box in an aircraft. In fact, there's two. The first is called the Cockpit Voice Recorder, or CVR. The CVR is responsible for recording all communication that occurs inside of the cockpit between the pilot and his crew, all communication between the aircraft and air traffic controllers, as well as any audible alarms that the pilot or his crew might be receiving reference the performance of that aircraft. Now, according to TheGuardian.com, CVRs are responsible for recording the last 2 hours of every flight, meaning that those 2 hours give the air crash investigators a good picture of what was happening inside that aircraft prior to a crash. The second piece of equipment is known as the Flight Data Recorder, or FDR. The FDR is going to record all of the aircraft's operating systems. So any input the pilot gives that aircraft, if he climbs it, descends it, turns it, the FDR is going to pick that up and record it. Now, according to science.howstuffworks.com, on July 17, 1997, the Federal Aviation Administration made it mandatory that 88 different parameters were recorded by the FDR. Those can include speed, time, altitude, climb rate, fuel flow, among many other things, showing the physical state of that aircraft prior to the crash. So we've discussed some of the common misconceptions, how they operate, why they're important to air crash investigators. Now I'll give you a brief history of how black boxes came about. In 1950, a man by the name of Dr. David Warren was selected for an air crash investigation of the first jetliner air crash in Australia. So he went there and he posed the question, why is there no recording device on this aircraft to help us determine the cause of the crash? So he took it upon himself to try and create the first black box. By 1957, he had his first prototype, and that is what we now know as is a black box. Australia adopted his concept in 1960 and made it mandatory for all commercial aircraft to have black boxes on board. The world followed suit shortly thereafter. So according to science.howstuffworks.com, black boxes are extremely durable and rugged and can withstand a beating, and it's been that way forever. So the first thing, and arguably the most important thing, is their location on an aircraft. Now that may sound kind of crazy, but here is a photo depicting where the flight data recorders are on this aircraft. The CVR and FDR are in the rear near the tail. Now why is that important? Well, according to science.howstuffworks.com, it's important because the tail of that aircraft is going to receive a lot less impact and absorb a lot less force than the nose of that aircraft. That's why they're housed there. It's also important what they're made out of. They have an aluminum housing, high temperature insulation, and a stainless steel shell that goes through rigorous testing. It's shot out of an air cannon at 3,400 Gs. It's burned at temperatures up to 2,000 degrees for over an hour. And lastly, they put it in deep water submersion for over 24 hours to make sure it can withstand the crushing depths of the ocean, as well as salt water testing to make sure it can withstand the corrosive characteristics of salt water. And that brings me to this photo, which is of Air France 447, which went down in 2009. We didn't recover this black box until 2 years later, in 2011. It was on the bottom of the ocean at 14,000 feet for 2 years. We were able to recover it, bring it to the surface, and retrieve the information from that black box and essentially bring closure to those families. So time and time again, black boxes have proven their worth have proven their durability. But with all the advances in technology, are they necessary? Do we still need them? The answer is yes, but for how much longer? Currently, there's testing going on between aircraft, linking an aircraft to a ground station via satellite, passing all the information from that aircraft. That is the next horizon. That's the next step in aircraft recording devices. It makes it obsolete to have a recording device on the aircraft. There's no need for it anymore. So yes, we still do need black boxes today, but that may not be the case tomorrow. I really appreciate you guys listening to my speech. I really look forward to hearing yours, and best of luck to you. Thanks.